Welcome to the Prescott Lab Podcast, not just theory, practical science for everyone. I'm Dr. Jonathan Prescott, a physician and integrative medicine researcher at the Ravenshade Institute for Human Health. Gentlemen, let me paint a picture you might know all too well. It's 2 in the morning. You shuffle out of bed, cold floor under your feet, that familiar ache in your bladder telling you there's no choice but to make another trip down the hall. You've done it 3 times already tonight, maybe 4. And tomorrow you'll wake up tired, irritable, wondering if this is just how life goes after 60. Most men think it's inevitable, the slow creep of prostate trouble, the endless nights broken into fragments. But after 3 decades working with men from every walk of life, veterans, teachers, welders, grandfathers, I can tell you, it's not just about age. It's about what's quietly working for you and what's secretly working against you. And that's exactly why you need to stay with me until the end today. Because we're going to uncover foods that science shows can calm inflammation, shrink swelling, and give you back the kind of deep, unbroken sleep you thought was gone for good. But before we add anything to your plate, I'm going to reveal the everyday habits and foods that might be keeping you stuck in this cycle, the hidden culprits most men never suspect. Now, if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that. And hit that like button, not just because it makes me feel good, but because every like tells us you want more of this kind of life-changing information, and it's the fuel that keeps us making these videos for you. So pour yourself a cup of something warm. Settle in, and let's start with a truth that might sting a little, but could be the very first step toward real relief. 1. Foods that sabotage your prostate. Samuel was 68, a retired bus driver from Ohio. He came into my office one winter afternoon with a look I've seen 100 times, the look of a man doing everything right and still losing the battle. He'd cut back on beer, started walking every morning, even added more vegetables to his plate, but his nights were still shattered by 3, sometimes 4 bathroom trips. When we sat down and went through his diet, the problem revealed itself like a slow leak in a tire. Every afternoon, Samuel reached for his old favorites, thick slices of processed deli meat, a bag of salted pretzels, and a can or 2 of cola to keep him going. To him, these were harmless little comforts. To his prostate, they were gasoline poured on a smoldering fire. Here's what most men don't realize: the prostate is sensitive. Feed it the wrong things day after day, and it responds with swelling, pressure, and irritation. Processed meats like ham, bacon, and salami are loaded with preservatives such as nitrates and nitrites. Research from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition has linked these compounds to higher levels of oxidative stress and systemic inflammation. For the prostate, that means the tissue stays in a constant state of low-grade swelling, pressing against the bladder and disrupting urinary flow. And the salt content. It forces your body to retain water, adding even more pressure to an already irritated system. Excess dairy can be another hidden offender. While a moderate amount may be fine for some, studies from the Harvard School of Public Health suggest that high dairy intake in certain men correlates with increased risk of prostate enlargement and more severe urinary symptoms. The likely culprits: hormonal residues and inflammatory proteins in milk, cheese, and cream that can throw your delicate hormone balance off track. Sugary drinks, whether soda, sweetened tea, or energy beverages, hit your bloodstream like a flash flood, spiking insulin and triggering inflammatory pathways throughout the body. Combine that sugar rush with caffeine and you've got a perfect recipe for bladder overactivity. The result: more urgency, weaker stream, and restless nights. Even the snacks you think are safe can turn into saboteurs. Highly salty chips or pretzels make you thirsty, leading to more fluid intake late in the day, while also making you retain water. 2 strikes against your prostate comfort. The science is clear. When you consistently consume foods high in processed preservatives, refined sugars, and excessive sodium, your body's inflammatory markers rise. Inflammation in the prostate doesn't just cause swelling, it changes the tissue itself, making it stiffer, less elastic, and more prone to ongoing irritation. That's why men like Samuel can eat healthy in some ways, but still keep feeding the very fire they are trying to put out. Here's the hopeful part: change can happen faster than you think. In my own practice, I've seen men notice improvement in just 2 weeks after cutting back these irritants by half or more. It's not about perfection, it's about giving your prostate room to recover so the good foods you add can actually do their job. When Samuel swapped his deli meat for roasted turkey breast, traded soda for water with a slice of lemon, and saved salty snacks for an occasional treat, he called me a month later sounding lighter in spirit and in sleep. Doc, he said, last night I only got up once. Once, I can't remember the last time that happened. Sometimes the most powerful step forward is to stop stepping on your own foot, remove what's hurting you, and suddenly the path ahead is clear. And speaking of adding the right fuel, when you start replacing these harmful habits with foods that fight inflammation and restore your nutrient reserves, that's when real change begins. Let's start with one you probably know well, but may have been eating the wrong way your entire life. 2 tomatoes, the heat-activated healer. Robert was 70, a retired carpenter from Michigan, the kind of man whose hands told the story of a lifetime, scarred from decades of chisels and saws, but steady and strong. Yet lately, those same hands were pressing the edge of the bathroom sink at 2 in the morning, bracing himself against the frustration of another broken night's sleep. He'd tried medication. He'd tried supplements. He'd even given up his evening coffee. But his prostate still kept him on a short leash, pulling him from bed every couple of hours. When I asked about his diet, he smiled and said, "I eat healthy, Doc. I love my salads. Always put a few fresh tomato slices on top." And that's when I knew he was holding the key to relief, but he'd never turned it. See, tomatoes carry one of nature's most potent anti-inflammatory compounds, lycopene. It's the pigment that gives them their deep red color. But here's the twist: lycopene is locked inside the cell walls of the tomato. Your body can't easily get to it when the tomato is raw. It's like owning a safe full of gold but never having the combination. The moment you apply heat, simmer them into a sauce, roast them with olive oil, or let them bubble into a rich soup, that safe clicks open. Lycopene becomes bioavailable, ready to enter your bloodstream and go to work where it's needed most. Inside the prostate, lycopene acts like a cool wave rolling over hot sand, calming chronic inflammation, reducing oxidative stress, and helping slow the structural changes that make an enlarged prostate so stubborn. Studies from the Journal of Nutrition have shown that men with higher blood levels of lycopene tend to have smaller prostate volumes and fewer urinary symptoms. When I explained this to Robert, he leaned back and said, "So you're telling me I just need to cook the darn things?" I gave him a plan: tomato-based soup twice a week, roasted cherry tomatoes drizzled with olive oil on weekends, a hearty marinara sauce from canned crushed tomatoes at least once a week. The olive oil wasn't just for flavor. Lycopene is fat-soluble, meaning it's absorbed far better when paired with healthy fats. 6 weeks later, Robert walked into my office looking like a man who just won a quiet battle. "Doc, I slept 6 hours straight last night. Haven't done that in years." Now, I'm not here to sell tomatoes as a miracle cure. They're not. But they are a consistent ally, affordable, versatile, and accessible whether you grow them in your backyard or buy them canned from the store. Alongside other prostate-friendly habits, they create an environment in your body where healing can actually happen. And remember, this isn't just about what lycopene does for your prostate. Tomatoes bring vitamin C, potassium, and folate to the table, supporting your urinary tract and overall health. They're a small change that can ripple outward, touching multiple parts of your well-being. If you've been waking up tired, rushing to the bathroom, or noticing a weaker flow, it's worth asking yourself, is my diet calming my prostate or keeping it irritated? Sometimes relief isn't about adding something new, it's about using what you already have the right way. And if tomatoes are the quiet healer that cools inflammation, the next food is the watchful guardian, a source of a mineral your prostate relies on more than most men ever realize. Without it, your best efforts may never reach their full potential. 3. Pomegranate, the overlooked prostate protector. Franklin was 75, a retired police officer from North Carolina. A man with stories etched into the lines on his face, years on the beat, the kind of job that made him sharp, alert, and used to solving problems head-on. But the problem he came to me with, well, it was one he couldn't chase down or handcuff. His PSA numbers had been inching up year after year. Not enough to cause alarm, but enough to weigh on his mind every time he saw the test results. "Doc," he said, "I don't like waiting for bad news. Tell me what I can do." When I asked about his diet, I noticed something missing. "Ever eat pomegranate?" I asked. He raised an eyebrow, half smiling. "Isn't that the fruit for fancy salads? Too much trouble to crack open." And there it was, one of the most underrated allies in a man's fight for prostate health. Dismissed because it looked inconvenient. Here's the science. Pomegranate is loaded with polyphenols, powerful plant antioxidants that act like a security team for your cells. These compounds don't just protect healthy prostate tissue, They slow down the inflammation and oxidative stress that quietly push the gland toward enlargement and dysfunction. Multiple studies, including one from the Journal of Urology, show that regular pomegranate consumption can help reduce inflammatory markers and in some men slow the rise of PSA levels. I told Franklin we'd start simple, pure, unsweetened pomegranate juice, a small glass 3 times a week. No added sugar, no pomegranate blends diluted with grape juice, just the real thing. 3 months later, his PSA hadn't just stabilized, it had dipped slightly. Could I credit the juice alone? No, but Franklin swore it was the one change he could feel good about every time he poured a glass. Soon he started eating the seeds straight from the fruit, saying it was like opening nature's treasure chest. And maybe that's the point. Pomegranate isn't something you mindlessly snack on. It demands a little attention. You cut it open. See those ruby seeds glistening like jewels, and you take the time to savor them. That mindfulness is its own medicine. Now let me ask you this, and I want you to answer in the comments. Be honest, have you ever actually eaten a fresh pomegranate? Type yes if you have, no if you haven't. I'm curious because I find most men either love it or have never touched one. And if you're in the no camp, I'll tell you it's worth the effort, and I'll bet you'll remember your first time cracking one open. Here's the thing, pomegranate works on multiple fronts, neutralizing free radicals before they damage prostate cells, calming inflammation that keeps you running to the bathroom, improving circulation so oxygen and nutrients actually reach the tissue for repair. It's not about loading up every day. In fact, with pomegranate, a little goes a long way. The key is consistency. And while pomegranate offers a kind of steady, quiet protection, the next food on our list works in an entirely different way. It relaxes the muscles around your bladder and prostate, helping you regain control and comfort. And it does this in one of the most soothing, enjoyable forms you can drink. 4. Pumpkin seeds, the zinc rescue. Edward was 72, a retired postal worker from Kansas. The kind of man who had walked more miles than most of us will in a lifetime, delivering letters through blazing summers and icy winters. His legs were strong, his back was still straight, but his nights, they'd grown weak. Every evening he'd sit down with his wife to watch a movie, and halfway through he'd have to excuse himself not once but twice. It's the same at night. Doc, he told me, it's like my bladder has a timer I can't shut off. We ran some tests, and while nothing looked alarming, one number caught my eye: his zinc levels. Not dangerously low, but lower than I like to see in a man dealing with persistent prostate symptoms. Here's why that matters. Your prostate contains more zinc than almost any other organ in your body. That's not a coincidence. Zinc is essential for repairing prostate tissue, balancing hormones, especially testosterone and dihydrotestosterone (DHT), regulating inflammation so the gland doesn't stay swollen and irritated. But as we age, zinc levels tend to decline, partly from diet, partly from reduced absorption, and partly from hormonal changes. By the time many men hit their 60s or 70s, they're running on a zinc deficit without even realizing it. So where do pumpkin seeds come in? These small, unassuming seeds are one of nature's richest sources of zinc, along with healthy fats, magnesium, and plant compounds called phytosterols, which studies in the Journal of Medicinal Food suggest may help reduce prostate size naturally. I told Edward we'd start with 1 ounce of raw, unsalted pumpkin seeds a day, about a small handful. He could sprinkle them on oatmeal, mix them into yogurt, or eat them straight. The key was consistency, not quantity. By the 3rd week, he told me he could get through a movie without leaving the couch. By the 6th, he said, "Doc, I actually made it through the night without getting up once. I'd forgotten what that felt like." Now let me ask you, and I want you to put it in the comments, do you already eat pumpkin seeds? Type yes if it's part of your routine, no if you've never tried, or sometimes if it's an occasional snack. I read every comment, and I'm curious how many of you have this simple habit. A few tips if you're going to try it. Choose raw or lightly roasted seeds. Avoid heavily salted or flavored ones. Store them in an airtight container to keep the oils from going rancid. Pair them with other zinc-rich foods like chickpeas or cashews for an extra boost. The beauty of pumpkin seeds is that they are inexpensive, widely available, and require no complicated preparation. Yet they can quietly rebuild one of the most critical nutrient reserves your prostate depends on. And while pumpkin seeds work to restore what's missing, the next step in our journey is about restoring something else: balance. Because when the muscles around your bladder and prostate are tense and overactive, no amount of nutrients can give you full comfort. That's where the calming power of a simple, ancient drink comes in. 5. Green tea calm for your prostate and bladder. Lawrence was 66, a retired music teacher from Oregon. His life used to run on rhythm, each day in harmony, every note in its place. But lately his nights were anything but melodic. He'd fall asleep only to be woken by that urgent call from his bladder again and again. "Doc," he told me, "it's like my body's lost its tempo." When I asked about his daily routine, the first thing that stood out was his coffee, 3 strong mugs before noon, every day for decades. Now, I love coffee as much as the next man, but for some prostates, that much caffeine is like turning up the volume on a stereo until the speakers crackle. Here's where green tea comes in. Unlike coffee, green tea contains a gentler dose of caffeine paired with catechins, plant antioxidants that do more than fight inflammation. Studies from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition show that these catechins can relax the smooth muscle fibers around the bladder, neck, and prostate. When those muscles loosen, your bladder can empty more completely, and the constant sense of urgency starts to fade. I suggested Lawrence replace his second cup of coffee with a fresh brewed green tea, not bottled or sweetened, but made from quality loose leaves or a good tea bag steeped for about 3 minutes. I told him to add a squeeze of lemon, which research suggests can help boost antioxidant absorption. At first, he was skeptical. "Tea's too light for me," he said, but after 2 weeks he called my office almost laughing. "Doc, I didn't realize how much my bladder was on edge until it wasn't. I'm making it through my morning without that constant pressure." Now I want to hear from you, and don't be shy. Are you more of a coffee drinker or a tea drinker? Type coffee or tea in the comments, and if you've never tried green tea for your prostate, let me know if you'd be willing to give it a shot. Beyond muscle relaxation, green tea's catechins also help lower oxidative stress inside prostate tissue, reducing the chronic irritation that can lead to swelling. It supports healthy hormone balance and is far less irritating to the bladder than most caffeinated drinks. The ritual matters too. Taking a few minutes to brew a cup, sit down, and sip slowly is a small act of self-care. And when that self-care comes with real physical relief, it's a win on every level. Just remember, no single drink will fix everything. But when green tea becomes part of a broader prostate-friendly lifestyle, the benefits add up: better bladder control, calmer nights, and a quieter, more comfortable rhythm to your day. And while green tea soothes and balances, our next food takes aim at the very heart of prostate trouble: inflammation itself. It doesn't just calm the fire, it changes the way your body responds to it. And it comes from the deep, cold waters of the sea. 6. Salmon anti-inflammation from the inside out. Martin was 71, a retired mechanical engineer from Minnesota. Precision was in his nature. He could spend hours adjusting the smallest gear until it turned perfectly. But the one mechanism he couldn't seem to fine-tune anymore was his own body. His prostate kept him running to the bathroom night after night, and the lack of rest was wearing him down. When I asked him about his diet, he shrugged. "Doc, I haven't touched fish in years, never cared for the taste." That's when I knew he was missing out on one of the most potent natural anti-inflammatories we have: salmon. You see, salmon is rich in omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA, which act like fire extinguishers inside the body. Inflammation is sneaky. It doesn't make a loud entrance, it builds quietly, damaging tissues over time. In the prostate, that damage shows up as swelling, pressure on the bladder, and changes in urinary flow. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition shows that diets high in omega-3s can lower systemic inflammatory markers, which can translate into less irritation inside the prostate. The result: fewer nighttime interruptions, better flow, and more comfort during the day. Martin agreed to try, but only if we could find preparations he enjoyed. We started with grilled salmon seasoned with lemon and dill, then moved to baked salmon with garlic and rosemary. After a few weeks, he admitted he didn't just tolerate it, he was actually looking forward to it. 2 months later, he came in smiling. "Doc, I'm down to waking up just once a night. My wife says I even have more energy during the day." Now, I'd like to hear from you. If you eat fish, what's your favorite way to prepare it? Drop it in the comments. You might give another man here a new idea to try. And if you don't eat fish, tell me why. Maybe I can give you a workaround. Here's the other beauty of salmon: it's not just about prostate health. Omega-3s benefit your heart, your brain, your joints. It's a whole body investment. Pair salmon with vegetables rich in antioxidants like spinach or roasted peppers, and you multiply the anti-inflammatory effect. And yes, fresh wild-caught salmon is ideal, but quality frozen or even canned salmon packed in water can still deliver these benefits. Just avoid heavy breading or deep frying, which adds unhealthy fats and cancels out the gains. When you consistently give your body enough omega-3, you're not just calming inflammation now, you're training your body to respond less aggressively in the future. That's something no quick-fix pill can match. And while salmon strengthens you from the inside out, there's another crucial piece of the puzzle, one that isn't about food at all. It's about the habits you practice every single day, the small choices that either speed up your progress or quietly undo it. 7 lifestyle habits that boost your results. David was 74, a retired commercial pilot from Arizona. He'd flown through thunderstorms, landed in crosswinds, and navigated halfway around the world without missing a beat. But these days, his biggest challenge wasn't in the cockpit, it was in his own home, trying to make it through the night without 3 or 4 trips to the bathroom. He'd already cleaned up his diet, added more vegetables, cut back on coffee. "Doc," he told me, "I'm doing everything you said, and still my nights are shot." So I asked him to walk me through his entire day hour by hour, and that's when I spotted it. Every night about 30 minutes before bed, David drank a tall glass of water because he'd read that hydration was good for his health. He wasn't wrong, but the timing was sabotaging his sleep. Here's the first rule: hydrate early. Front-load your fluids in the first 2/3 of the day. Then taper off in the evening. That gives your bladder time to clear before you sleep. It sounds small, but for men like David, it can mean the difference between waking once and waking 4 times. Movement matters too. Gentle, consistent activity, even something as simple as a brisk 20-minute walk, increases blood flow to the pelvic region. More blood flow means more oxygen and nutrients for your prostate, helping it repair and function better. Carrying extra abdominal 8. Closing doctor's advice. Gentlemen, after decades of sitting across from men just like you, I can tell you this: prostate problems don't appear overnight and they don't vanish overnight. They are the sum of countless small choices, good and bad, layered over years. That means your future health isn't just in the hands of fate. It's in your hands, in the choices you start making today. We've talked about foods that cool inflammation and restore vital nutrients. Tomatoes, pumpkin seeds, pomegranate, green tea, salmon. We've exposed the hidden culprits that sabotage your progress and the lifestyle habits that quietly amplify your results. Alone, each of these steps matters. Together, they can transform your life. I've seen men who believed they'd be chained to the bathroom for the rest of their days reclaim their nights, sleep deeply, and enjoy a freedom they thought was gone for good. Not with magic, not with quick fixes, but with steady, intentional changes. Now, if you've made it this far into the podcast, it tells me you care about your health, so let me say this: if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. That little button means you'll never miss the next conversation that could change your life. And if you found even one tip today that helps, hit that like button. Not for me, for you. And for every man who needs to hear this. Every like tells us this matters, and it's the fuel that lets us keep making more of these videos for you. Share this with a friend, a brother, a father, someone you care about who might be up at 2 a.m. pacing the hallway wondering if this is just getting older. And if something in today's talk sparked a question, or you want to tell me what you're going to try first, leave it in the comments. I read them. I respond to them. You're not just a viewer here, you're part of a conversation. So here's my wish for you. May your nights be restful, your days be full of energy, and your health be something you take pride in, not something you worry about. You've got the tools, you've got the choice, and now you've got no reason to wait. And in our next session, I'm going to share something most men over 60 are drinking right now that could be undoing all this progress. You don't want to miss that one.